Arguably the greatest boxer of all time, Muhammad Ali, is credited with saying that he doesn't count his sit-ups until it starts to hurt. That's when he starts counting, because that is when it really counts, and that's what makes you a champion. What Muhammad Ali is talking about in that moment is extreme discomfort. And I don't know if you've ever done a workout where your leg muscles are burning, where your abs are burning, where your lungs are burning. But that's when the magic happens. That's when champions are made. And as I've learned in my own entrepreneurial journey, it's about going through that uncomfortable stage. Because if you are wanting to grow, if you are wanting to succeed, you have to be comfortable living in that discomfort. And I was recently on a podcast interview, and the gentleman that was interviewing me, I had to give him full credit. I've never heard this term before, but the term that he used was proactive discomfort. Proactive discomfort. Meaning that, do you want to be better? Like, do you want to change your situation? Do you want to have something later that you don't have right now? The only way to get there is through proactive discomfort. And when he said this, I've spent some time pondering this and just looking at my own life and seeing in how many different situations that I've gone through this proactive discomfort. And I also recognize that there were so many different stages in my life that I went through this that, wow, I didn't realize like how uncomfortable that really was. Like how bad that hurt or how scary it was. And I look back at all those different situations and I can see now that that's what it took. Like I had to go through those trials. I had to go through those tribulations to grow, to learn, to fail, but to also use those experiences, to use those life lessons so that I could move on to the next stage. And chances are, if you are watching this, you can relate to this in some degree. You either have gone through these periods of discomfort, or maybe you've reached this point where you know you need to do it, but it just scares the crap out of you. Like you know that there's a change that needs to happen, but it's a change that you've never gone through, so you don't know what it looks like on the other side. And that is this discomfort that you have to push through, that you have to be willing to put yourself out there to see what is going to happen. But if you don't, then you're always going to be left wondering, what if? What if you would have done that? What if you would have done this? And I'm telling you, living a life of regret is not where you want to be. You don't want to regret not taking a chance, not taking a swing. And just to kind of give you like some personal examples, just hopefully to help you relate and understand like what this proactive discomfort is. But actually, before I do that, let me just say this. The key difference here with a proactive discomfort is a reactive discomfort. So with being proactive, that means that you are consciously making choices, that you are making decisions, that you are making moves in your life that are helping you or hoping to help you grow. Meaning that you are in charge of these decisions. Now, you are not in charge of the outcome. You are not in charge of the results. What you are in charge of is the choice to do something different, the choice to try something different. And that is key. When you have that choice, when you have that control, when you have that power, that's what we're talking about here with proactive discomfort. And this is a big difference than with reactive discomfort. So with reactive discomfort, you're basically just letting life live on its own terms and you are reacting to what may happen. So if you are stuck in a job that you don't like and you're stuck with a boss that you hate or despise, but you're not making any choices to try to find a new job, to better your education, to better your skills, so that you can either get promoted or get hired by another company, another business. And all of a sudden you get laid off, you get fired, you don't get promoted. That is being reactive. Now you have to respond, react to that situation that you had no control with to begin with. And that is being reactive. And that's not a fun place to be. So you're basically thinking you're just trying to juggle all these different things, hoping that it doesn't crash and burn. That's not having a lot of fun, and that's not being in control of your future. Big difference, reactive discomfort versus proactive discomfort. So when I think about in my own journey, I think about me choosing to do an internship that I didn't know anybody at the investment firm before I started. That was putting myself out there. That was an example of proactive discomfort. Whenever I got hired and was doing my job as a junior broker for an entire year, and then I reached a point where the gentleman who hired me made me an offer if I wanted to stay with him and be a salaried employee, or did I want to break off and become my own financial advisor, own my own book of business. I mean, that was one of the most uncomfortable situations in my life, because up to that point, I'd always had some sort of base salary. I had some sort of cushion, protection. Even though it wasn't a lot, I had something that I could fall back on. So to make that choice to go from salary, comfort, cushion, to now I'm going complete commission-based, fee-based. There is no salary, there is no cushion. That was really, really uncomfortable. But there was something in making that choice and also believing in myself that I was willing to do what it took to make it, to survive. That was me making that choice and having control and having proactive discomfort. Let me tell you, that next year plus was nonstop uncomfortable, because it was every single month waiting, seeing, would I have enough to pay the rent? Did I have enough to pay my insurance and electricity and internet? Did I have enough to take my soon-to-be fiance out to dinner? That was a scary time. But looking back, I mean, that whole experience was completely proactive in a sense, because I made that choice, I made that control. And then from then on, I could continue then to make choices to make sure that I was going to make it, that I was going to survive. That was a big one. Let's go ahead and fast forward another about almost 5 years. So I've been a financial advisor now for 5 years. My firm gets bought out and I have the choice. I can take the comfortable route. I could have made the choice to accept, I think it was like $42,000 was they called it a retention bonus that I could keep. And all I had to do is stay. I mean, you talk about we had it made. I mean, back in the day, I mean, this is what happens when a financial advisory firm gets bought out. They want to keep their top talent. So everybody was offered some sort of retention bonus. Now, I was small up on the totem pole, so I didn't have like a huge check. There were other people that got like $500,000, $700,000. I think a guy in my office got like $800,000 just to stay. That's what he was getting. That wasn't very uncomfortable for him to make a choice. For me, it was $42,000 and all I had to do was stay. That's all I had to do. Or I could be proactive. And I looked at this situation. One, the firm that was buying us out, I just wasn't comfortable with. It was a big bank. They actually don't even exist anymore today. It was Wachovia Bank, which is now Wells Fargo. But there was just something about the way that they did business was different than the firm that I started with. There just was this gut feeling that I didn't trust. But once again, easy route. I stay. I still have a job. I'm still employed, and I get a $40,000 check that I don't even think I had to pay back. Or no, I didn't have to pay back, but I don't think I had to pay taxes on it because of the way that it was structured. But I mean, that was a good amount of money at the time. I think we just had one child. I was fairly newly married. That was a huge amount of money for me. And that would have made me that much more comfortable. So that was a choice that I could have made. But instead, I chose proactive discomfort. And that choice of proactive discomfort was, instead of staying, accepting this $40,000 check, the choice was to leave, co-found my first investment firm, give up that $40,000 check, and then go to something that there was no guarantee. There was no guarantee that I was going to make it. There was no guarantee that I was going to survive. But once again, I put all of my chips on me, and I just knew I was either going to make it or I was going to do whatever it took to make sure that I did make it. Like, those are my two choices. Option A, option B. But I knew that I was willing to work my butt off to make sure that I would survive. Was it uncomfortable? Yes. And this was uncomfortable not just for me, but also for my wife. I mean, this was new for her because I was still a W-2 employee at the other firm that I started with. So W-2 employee, even though I was on commission, but still I was employee, there was still some security there. There was still some safety. And then to go from that to starting my own business, for now, like, I'm in charge of all my self-employment tax. I'm in charge of all my office equipment. I'm in charge if I hire any employees. I mean, that was a big change, going from W-2 employee to now independent contractor, self-employed. So that was a huge state of discomfort, proactive discomfort. Go ahead and fast forward a few more years. After the blog is doing really well, but I'm battling with compliance on feels like a daily basis. And I knew that the only way to truly go the online route, to really focus on the online business, like the blog, goodfinancialsense.com, and then eventually YouTube and the podcast, the only way to do that was to leave my partnership with the guys I co-founded to start my own wealth management firm. Once again, didn't know what I was doing. Yes, I made some calls, sent some emails, started doing some research, and that's when I made the choice to do it. That was uncomfortable. That was proactive discomfort. And funny enough, in that situation, because of how my business was structured, I was giving up. I think it was like, funny enough, like, it was around the exact same amount. It was like $40,000 a year in reoccurring revenue, not just a one-time check, reoccurring revenue that I was giving up because I couldn't bring some of this business over. $40,000 a year, for the most part, I won't say guaranteed, but I mean, it was coming in. It was straight residual income. Didn't have to do anything. Didn't do a lot of work to have to maintain it. But I was giving that up because I felt that with the online business, with the blog, like, there was so much unlocked potential there. And the only way that I could do that was to start this new journey. So that's when I founded Alliance Wealth Management, my first and only registered investment advisory firm. Trust me, I am skipping so many different stages of discomfort, but go ahead and just close with the last one. Then fast forward to more recent day was making the move to Nashville. So moving out of state, moving to a new place. I mean, that was uncomfortable, but also the big one business-wise was getting rid of, selling off the financial planning practice that I spent my entire career, over 16 plus years, growing, cultivating, building. I mean, it wasn't just a business, like, this was relationships. This was husbands and wives and families that I had networked and serviced and been a part of for a good part of their life and also my life. So to make that decision to finally sell that business a couple of years ago so that I could focus on this business 100%, like, that was uncomfortable because that wasn't a $40,000, it wasn't a $40,000 check. That wasn't a $40,000 recurring revenue stream. This was a $400,000+ per year recurring revenue business, which didn't take a lot to keep going. I had an amazing team in place that was servicing my clients, doing everything that they needed. If I need to step in every once in a while, I did, but it didn't take a lot of work to maintain. All the work had been done doing everything I had done for like the last 15 plus years. So to give that up, to sell it and give up that recurring revenue to focus purely on this online business, which, you know, for some people, even me sometimes, is like, is that a real thing? Like, is that a real business? Like, you do this online thing? Whew, it is. It really is. And oftentimes I have to pinch myself to remind myself, like, this is a real thing. Like, it is the real deal. Either way, to make that decision, which I didn't make that was not a rash decision. Like, that was probably a multi-year process. And it wasn't until my wife finally came to me and just said, listen, if you're ready, I'm ready. Like, I know this is the next stage for you. I know this is what needs to happen. And God love her. Like, God loved my wife, that she would recognize that the online business, the blog and the YouTube channel, the podcast, everything else I have going online, that she could see that that was the real deal. Like, that, not just the real deal, like as far as like a revenue stream, but like the real deal as in like, this is what God made me to do. Like, this is what God made me to do, to focus on this online business so that I can put out a message that can encourage and inspire others to take charge of their financial life. So for her to recognize that, and I mean, she was still very uncomfortable with the whole idea, but she knew, because God knew, like, this was the right thing. Either way, it was still uncomfortable, but we did it. Like, I sold the financial planning practice, sold that business a couple years ago, and now here I am, still focusing, still doing the online thing. But let me tell you, like, even to this day, like, there are still periods of time of discomfort. I mean, there always is, but the key, and what I want you to take out of this is that being in charge of that discomfort, being proactive, not being reactive, continuing to make choices that put you in situations that make you uncomfortable because you are growing. That is huge, my friends. That is huge. And that is a big determinant of why I am who I am today and where I am, because of all those periods of time where I gave myself permission to be uncomfortable. But the key part of that as well is allowing myself to try, experiment new things, and not beating myself up if it didn't quite work out the way that I expected. That was a big one. Giving myself permission to fail, permission to try. That's a huge part. You're going to try things. They're not going to work out. They're not going to work out. Not every single one is going to work out, but you got to keep going. You got to keep trying. You fall off the bike, you get back on and keep pedaling until finally pedaling and you are hands-free and everything is working out. And eventually you're going to hit a speed bump or a pothole. You're going to fall off again. And that's okay, because you know there have been periods of time that you were comfortable and it worked out. That is my life lesson for today. Having proactive discomfort. I love that term. Curious, have you ever heard that before? Have you ever heard this term of being proactively discomfortable? Like, I just love it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, what you think about this term, this phrase, and also, have you found yourself in a situation like this where at the other side, you saw the fruits of that discomfort? It's a good time. It's a good time to be uncomfortable. All right, y'all, this is Jeff Rose reminding you that it's your money, it's your life, and only you can make it awesome. Until next time, peace.